How's it going, everybody? My name's Luke C. Marcotte, and welcome back to the Blue Collar Power Hour. So today, we're going to be talking about how to manage your contractors. So as many of you know, I own an electrical contracting company here in beautiful Detroit, Michigan. So one of our primary customer groups is real estate investors. Now a lot of you, I'm sure, are interested in electrical and the trades, but you might also be interested in real estate investing, or maybe you're a real estate investor trying to figure out how to manage your contractors better. So since we deal with these people a lot, I'm going to give you some tips and insights from the trade side of it and my point of view that will hopefully help you get along with your contractors better, keep things more managed, and ultimately help you make more money. So the first thing we're talking about, and probably the most important thing, is timelines. So if you want to have a smooth sailing scheduled project where things are getting done on time and you're not pulling your hair out trying to figure out what's going on or when somebody's going to be there, you have to focus on scheduling, okay? And you have to set timelines, deadlines, dates, and you have to act ultimately as a larger general contracting firm, because that's what a lot of subcontracting trades are used to. And so you have to mimic that. Now you probably don't have general contracting experience, development experience, but you're building it along the way. So take these tips and tricks from somebody that has done general contracting, somebody that has done a little bit of development work, as well as been a subcontractor. Now today for my company, we don't do any subcontracting for general contractors. We are ultimately a direct-to-consumer service company, and we do focus on smaller projects to have faster turnaround times. When I first started this business, I only did subcontracting to contractors. And so I know what it's like to be a subcontractor, I know what it's like to be a general contractor, I know what it's like to be a developer, and I know what it's like to be a real estate investor. And I know what it's especially like to work with real estate investors. So I'm going to ultimately bundle up everything that I have learned along the way and give it to you guys, and hopefully you learn a thing or two. And if you have any other tips or tricks, be sure to leave it in the comments below so we can all get smarter together. So being a contractor directly to real estate investors, if you do not give me set deadlines and in a timely fashion, reasonable deadlines, I can't do much for you, okay? If you just tell me, hey, here's free reins, whenever you get to it, go for it. Well, you know what? I'm going to get to it whenever I can, and I don't mean to do that purposefully, but if it's not a huge priority to you and you don't have goals set up, well, how am I going to schedule in front of other people when those other people are saying, hey, I need you here this date to get this done and be out of here by then? Can you do that? And you must also give them reasons for that deadline. Now, obviously, you can't say, hey, I need you here on Monday when it's a Friday and I need it done by Wednesday, or else. Or else what? Like, is it just because that's what you want to do and you want to get going, which is a good reason in its own, but we have other customers. Now, when you don't have your own crews working for you full time, you have to deal with the inefficiencies of subcontractors and working with contractors, because ultimately they do have their own business and their own family to feed. So now if you started on Monday and done on Wednesday, when today is Friday and it's just because, and you don't really have any real impending deadlines, even though that's an unrealistic expectation with permits and inspections. Sometimes we have customers who are over here and let's say they need a generator, but they need the generator installed on Tuesday and done by Wednesday because their grandmother's coming home from the hospital and needs emergency backup because she's on oxygen. And you know what? What's going to be more of an important task for us at hand? How are we going to balance between choosing someone's basically life or because somebody wants to get something moving? Okay, and sometimes it comes down to a pinch point and you have to make a decision. And so not only deadlines that are realistic, obviously you don't want to be waiting super long for things to get done because ultimately time is money. So set audacious deadlines, push them without a doubt, but make sure they are realistic. And if you do push them, if they have to go a day or two over because something happens, you have to be understanding of that. And you can't go through and just start talking shit about them online or leaving bad reviews because, things happen. And if you're pushing them, you got to realize the harder you push things causes more friction, causes more things to break. So you just got to deal with the punches, roll with them. But you have to give them good reasons as well. Because like I said, if someone's grandma is waiting on oxygen and needs backup generator at their house, but you want to just get this done just because, and they have to make a last minute decision to choose which job to go to and finish up, well, is it that bad if yours is put off 2 more days? But if you do have a good reason, make sure you translate that with them. And I have customers who go through and they obviously are doing it the first few times, and so it's understandable, and that's ultimately why I'm making this video, is to help these kind of people. But they go through for their first couple times, they don't set any kind of deadline, and they don't give me any reason why. So it's not a top priority because they said, you know, whenever you get to it. Well, guess what? We have anywhere from 5 to 10 people calling us a day, and we are awarded probably 80 to 90% of the projects we estimate. So we have a lot on our table. We're always constantly moving. And especially focusing on smaller projects, we usually never know what we're doing in 2 weeks. So we're always getting constant leads coming in and taking care of work fast. But if you tell us whenever we get to it, and we can keep scheduling other things Monday through Friday, and there's no real deadline to the project because there's no real reason, but then we find out a week and a half later that you're super disappointed with us because there was no communication, and it turns out that your grandma was coming home from the hospital on oxygen and needed backup power, but we had no clue. Obviously, there comes time to prioritize those things. So you have to translate with your contractors about why the reason and the deadlines, and make sure you set dates and what you expect of them, as well as when they can get paid for it. Because if they have a date that they know they're going to get paid on, if they're done by with this goal by that day, they're going to work twice as hard for it. Which then leads me into the next segment of this episode, which is paying your contractors. Now, I know you're taught growing up that you have to go to college and get a degree to make good money.
If you want to fit in, you go to college.
The whole purpose of the Blue Collar Power Hour, to prove that wrong. I'm an example why, as well as hundreds of thousands of other tradesmen. All right, and so people think because of that, tradesmen are effectively worthless. They think that the skilled trades, anybody that has equipment, anybody that has experience, or anybody that has the time to do it, because as a real estate investor, you realistically should not have the time to do it. You should be finding more deals, allocating more money, finding more contractors, lining things up, etc. And obviously that's on a larger scale. When you start, you'll be doing a lot yourself, as I had, until you get to the point to where you start contracting out work. But when you think that contractors and tradesmen are effectively worthless and they are no good, and so you go through and you try to hire handymen, and you try to hire people that are unlicensed to do the work, and you try to hire people to work for you full-time for $15, $20 an hour and have them take care of all aspects of a home, well, guess what? When you flip that home, it's going to come back to bite you because everything's done shady, everything's done not to par, tiles not square, things are shitty, and ultimately people that come and buy the house, they have to redo a lot of the stuff that you've done if you're a lower end type real estate investor. Now, I understand that there are some tight margins sometimes on real estate investing, but there's ways around it. Now, ultimately, it doesn't come down to the contractors costing too much. A lot of times it comes down to you not negotiating the price, not looking for the right deal. Some people try to jump into the wrong deal at the right time, they think, but it's really the wrong time. And so you have to look for the right deals. You make your money on the buy. And so you can't blame the contractors for charging what they need to charge in order for you to be profitable on your project. All right, I know firsthand, it costs more than you would think to be a contractor, especially an electrician, when the average journeyman electrician makes $25 to $35 an hour. And you still have to take care of marketing fees. You still have to take care of admin fees. You have to spend time driving around and looking and estimating jobs. You have to spend time on people that are going to manage these other electricians. You have to pay for credit card interests on projects, on parts. You have to pay for other interests on different areas, on loans, on shops, all this stuff. Operating costs definitely add up. And so that's why you have to charge a certain amount for contractors. And the luxury for you in that aspect is you do not have to pay these people full time. You do not have to carry all of those costs to have a shop, to have these liability insurances, to have all these tools and replace tools and all of this and have people and marketing. You don't have to worry about that. Because if you hired these people, say a group of electricians, to work for you full time, you would have the same things to worry about. You're still trying to figure out how to keep these people busy, because then it comes standstill times on your jobs where they can't work there. Well, if they're electricians and they're working for you, well, then you can't keep them busy. Now you got to find other work for them. Effectively, you just open an electrician company and you go back to the same spot that we're in now. And so ultimately, you're not going to get a contractor for $30 an hour. You're not going to get a contractor for $40, $50, $60 an hour. Contractors usually start anywhere from $70 an hour up to $150 an hour per person. Okay, tons of factors go into that cost, whether it be the cost of real estate in the area to house that company, the cost of living in the area, so that's how much you have to pay your employees. Contractors get paid a lot because they have a lot of expenses. They have a lot of liabilities. They have a lot of overhead. Now, tradesmen that work for these companies aren't just dumbass people that don't know what they're doing and are effectively worthless, and you can find a $10 an hour person to replace them. Well, I know tons of people that try that, and they call me back after they didn't accept our bid, and they want us to fix everything or pull the permit and go through and redo the things. And we ultimately do on these jobs, we have to go in and redo everything that they had done before, so they paid for the job twice now. And so it's better to just get a team that you trust, someone you can rely on. It's not a liability. As a business owner, as a real estate investor, you want to reduce all liabilities as possible, as many liabilities as possible. Having shady contractors, unlicensed people, it's just not worth it. I know I've done tons of work for customers that try to do things with handymen that were not on the permit, and they get busted halfway through the process, and they call us to come in, and we have to rip out everything they had originally done, redo it, tear out drywall an entire house before, redo all the electrical, etc. And at the end of the day, when you do it right, you made a better quality product, you built a better name for yourself, and as you get better on this, maybe you start a construction company, maybe you start doing this for other people. You get better at it, but you need people you can trust, because ultimately you have a home, you have a project, you have an investment that you're trusting in the hands of other people. And that's not saying you can't have a handyman on staff if you have a bunch of properties. It's actually probably smarter, and I would do that myself. But guess what? If it came to major plumbing problems, major electrical problems, I would definitely call a contractor in. And also another note is that, especially us being a service electrician, we do focus on smaller projects. Just because you want one plug changed out doesn't mean it's going to be $20 to get that plug changed out, okay? We still have to go there. We have to pick up from the job we're on. We have to go there. We have to change out the plug. We have to determine what the problem was first, then change out the plug, and then we got to go back to where we were in the beginning. Then going back to scheduling, mixing it all up. So it's not going to cost $40. It's not going to cost $10 because the guy's not getting paid $10 an hour and $1 for material cost. Things are going to cost more than that because you're using in a smaller amount of time, but the luxury trade-off for you is that you don't have the greater liability of these, which all again goes back to time, about hiring these guys, about paying the insurance on these guys, the shops, the vans, the tools, the finding more work for these guys to keep them busy all the time, because you're not going to find people that are willing to work 10 hours a week for you every other week, basically, as a W-2 employee, especially for $10 an hour or $20 an hour. Skilled trades make skilled money. And the next thing we're getting into now is purchasing material. It saves you approximately $0.0 purchasing your own material, okay? It saves you no money, it does nothing. If you go to Home Depot and buy material, it is going to cost more than we can get it for at the supply house. Guess what? If we get a 20% discount at the supply house and we still sell it to you basically at cost from Home Depot, well then guess what? You're paying no more for it. But we get to make a little bit on the front end of it. Now, if that pisses you off, there's actually something wrong psychological with that, because you should want everybody to make money on your projects. That's the whole idea of being an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, an investor, whatever it is. You want to create a better society around you. You want people around you to make more money. Now, if it costs you no more, but it helps somebody else local make more money, you should be taking that chance all the time. But when you go through and you buy the materials, a lot of times it just makes it so much more complicated, because then you get the wrong material. You have to return the material. We can't do the specific project because the material isn't there because you had the wrong material. It saves effectively no money. So whenever you get a chance and you hire a reputable contractor that isn't just going to go to Home Depot and charge you a markup off Home Depot's prices, you get a reputable contractor, just trust them to get their own parts. Most of the time they have it in stock, and a lot of times they'll even give it to you cheaper than Home Depot Depot gets it with better quality products. So make sure you just stop worrying about the product, the material, and just let the contractor get it. And the next comes back to doing segments of the job yourself. Now we get asked all the time if we can come in, pull a permit for a project, do the rough electrical, and then leave, and the customer can finish the final electrical themselves, and we call in the inspection on our permit. We say no to that 100% of the time because all of the liability is on us. We deal with inspectors all the time. We have to have relationships with these inspectors, you know? If you install the lights, if you put in the plugs, you put in the switches, the covers, you put in the breakers, make up the panel, the liability is still on us. If something happens to your house and it burns down, you can come back and you can sue us because we were the ones that pulled the permit for it because you weren't legally allowed to do the electrical under that permit. So financially, we're the ones that are liable for it, as well as with our insurances. So that's a scary thought to have on my end. I'd love to help you save more money, but guess what? You got to pull your own permits. And so then if you do that, then yeah, we'll do whatever aspect of the job you want. But guess what? If it's under our permit, no way. We ain't letting you do stuff under our permit because the liability is all on us. And ultimately, you're not a skilled tradesman. Although some things are easier than others, it's just not worth it. So that's the way we are. I know some contractors are willing to work with that. And if you do, you are absolutely insane.
You're insane!
I don't know how you can sleep at night with knowing that's going on with just so much liability going on with all of that around. I've also had people come ask me for a bid for a project. We give them an estimate. We get turned down because a handyman's willing to do it for half the price. Great. Well, guess what? City busted them. So now we got to come in and they want us to pull a permit, just inspect his work, and then have the inspector come in. No. That's not how it works. Okay, you don't get to cheat the system or cut corners that way, and it's not good. Because then again, if I took that on, I said, sure, let's do it. Fuck it. We go in there, we inspect it, and it looks good just on the cover of things, and we get an inspection on there. 2 years down the road, stuff catches on fire. Whew. Guess who's getting sued? Us. Guess whose insurance company's paying for it? Us. Guess whose insurance rates go up? Us. Luckily, I was taught all this stuff by a mentor, and it's just risk and liability versus reward. If you're a contractor watching this, you really got to watch out for this stuff. And if you're a real estate investor, stop trying to cut the corners. Just do it right, because then you know what? You build yourself a reputation. You build a brand people trust. You build yourself a reputation that people are willing to put money in. It helps you get more deals. It allows you to start turning out more deals and start doing higher frequency of things and focusing on what you do best. So stop trying to play the small game. Stop spending $1 to save a penny. Start actually trying to make more money instead of just saving it. Start doing more frequency, because then when you do that, it helps other contractors. It helps you employ hundreds of people around areas, or even around the country, depending on what size you go on, and you ultimately help the entire economy. So think of it on a larger scale. Stop thinking on such a small scale of where you have to save $30 on getting a plug installed at one of your apartments. Next, we're going to talk about discounts. Everybody's favorite, okay? So one thing that we do here at Elektrk is we actually have like rewards programs set up where the more you use us, the more our price continues to drop and the more favors we're willing to do for you, because it's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours type life. It's the way the world works, right? And so obviously if you're a first one-time person, first come, first serve, where you show up and you're like, hey, I have tons of friends and tons of real estate investors. I'm going to refer you to all of them. Please give me a discount now. That's not how the world works, okay? You have to provide value up front if you want something back. It takes time to get something back. Always focus on providing value up front. You know how many times I've given discounts before people provide value? Absolutely zero, okay? I can't do it. It's a business we're running. If you show up once, you text me once to come do an estimate and I give you a discount, oh, well, that's great. Now the next time you call me, I know you're just price shopping and you know you're going to give it to the cheapest guy, and if we're not him because we already gave you a discount, well, then that's not going to work out well. We have marketing costs. We have costs of finding customers, etc. of that. Now, if you provide enough value where you keep calling us back on a semi-regular basis or referring us and your friends are starting to tell us that you called, Well, guess what? We're going to start sharing that your way. We're here to better everybody around us. And so when you are helping us scratching our back, I'm willing to scratch your back as well as other customers. Okay, if you start calling and you get the normal base service fee for service calls, but then you keep calling dozens and dozens of times and you start sharing our contact information with 2, 3, 4 different customers and they say you sent them, guess what? You need a plug installed and you're 30 minutes down the road. Listen, man, I got you. I'm going to go down there and do it for free. Because you help us out so much. Things like that happen. You got to build relationships with people. If all you're worried about is the dollar amount and getting the cheapest thing right now, and then you're going to be trying to rush it, you're going to be ram jamming it, and then you're pissed because you accidentally hired somebody that sucked, that did it for so cheap, and now you're pissed you got to call somebody else to come in and fix that problem. You paid twice as much, and now all contractors suck, and they're just lazy and pathetic, and they don't deserve any money. You always have to ask yourself, maybe it was you first. You always have to take ownership. I highly recommend reading the book from Jocko Willink called Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomy of Leadership. And it's owning the mistakes.
Take ownership of everything in your world, the good and the bad.
Because if you just say, oh, it's somebody else, oh, it's somebody else's fault, everything else is everybody else's fault, everybody sucks but me. That's terrible, because guess what? That means there is absolutely no way for you to fix things. That means there's absolutely no way for you to create that better life, that better system, and better relationships with people, because everybody else sucks. If you say, you know what, maybe I should pick somebody that I like. He might be a little higher priced than the other guys, but I know that he works out well and he's always reliable. Well, I'm going to start calling them, I'm going to keep on doing that. I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm feeding you a lot of work. I'd like a little bit of kickback for that, as in when I get other jobs, I want to get a little bit of a discount. I'd like you to show that for me, because then it's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours world. Have a laid out conversation with people. Just have the conversation after you've given them a few jobs. Have that conversation after you've recommended a few jobs that had gone through. If you just tell friends about it and nothing happens, because everybody's like, oh shit, it's more than you said it was, I didn't do it, well then that's not worth anything either. You're all about providing value, making more money for the other person so they can help you save money in the longer run. So we're all in this together. Obviously, you guys as real estate investors, you're doing this to try and make money for yourself, but guess what? You employ other contractors, other people through the process, and that's amazing. And we make money off of that. And then also we can reinvest into the economy. Maybe we're like, hey, you know what? I'm making better money. I'm going to buy this house that this other real estate investor already fixed up, so I don't have to worry about fixing it. Boom, you just finished a flip. Oh, great. Things are better when you work in unison, you work together, and you stop fucking worrying about yourself. You have to be able to take ownership for yourself. If something's going wrong, things are going wrong, ask yourself what you did wrong and what you could do better, whether it be communication, whether it be setting timelines, deadlines, reasons of why that deadline's there, and why it's so important that it is done by that time. Make sure that you hire the right contractors. It is so much easier than people think, but people are like, oh, I don't want to make 10 grand off this project. I want to make 15 grand or 12 grand or 13 grand on this project. But guess what? You have to do a risk versus reward, and you have to do a liability back and forth. So you have to own that shit. You have to stop worrying about yourself, stop focusing on yourself and your own pocketbook, and worry about the things around you. You have to think on a larger scale. And going into the last thing of this podcast, a larger scale, stop trying to do everything yourself. All right, and this is just me talking. This is you do whatever you want. This is the great thing about you being a real estate investor, is you're basically your own boss, even though nobody ever truly works for themselves. If you watch other podcasts, you know I talk about this. But here's the thing. If you're sitting there and you're doing electrical work, and you're putting in plugs and switches, or maybe you're doing plumbing work, or maybe you're moving a bathroom, or carrying out destructed concrete and putting in new concrete, or changing out the roof, your time should be so much better spent doing other things, unless you're starting. If you're just starting out, you bought your first house and you're trying to live in it and starting to do things yourself, I totally understand. That's how I start. That's how I would recommend everybody to start. And that's why I recommend getting into the trades, because then you have the tools and the skills to get started anyway. But if you get started and let's say you go out and you buy $2,000 to $5,000 worth of tools and you take a year and a half to do this project, time is money. And just because you saved paying somebody else money doesn't mean you actually saved money. Now, if you're living there over the course of that time, you're not paying rent or anything anywhere else, and that's what I did. You know, it can turn out great for your first couple of projects. If you're sitting there and this project's just not getting done, it's not getting flipped, it's not making you any money, well, you're not making any money. Just because you're saving money doesn't mean you're making any money. You should focus on frequency and higher flip rates or even higher rental rates, things like that, you know. So it's like you have to focus on what is really worth your time, because is it worth it, the $10 an hour jobs by doing the electrical, plumbing, roofing, drywall, painting? Painting might be worth it, but you know, in cabinets, kitchens, anything like that, you should be focusing on the $100,000, $10,000, $100,000 jobs, you know, because if you're sitting there and let's say you have a dandy of a deal and you can make 20 grand on it, shouldn't you be focusing on the next one? Or should you be, do you really think you should be changing out a 50-cent switch or 50-cent plug throughout an entire house? I mean, I understand it's going to cost more and it might drop that $20,000 profit down to $18,000, $15,000, $14,000. But listen, if you're doing that, oh boy, we got some money in the bank. Well, where's the next deal at? Because then it goes back to finding the deal at the right time, at the right price. If you ain't looking, you ain't going to find it. So now if you're sitting there changing out a switch, a plug, which is a $10, sometimes $100 an hour job, depending on who's doing it, you're not focusing on the $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 an hour jobs. You could be flipping so many more buildings by doing a bigger and just thinking bigger and focusing on the higher end jobs and paying the smaller end jobs for other people to do. So when I see people sitting there and they've been doing real estate investing for 10, 20 years, and they're still trying to do the drywall themselves, still trying to paint the walls, still trying to hang lights, things like this. And it doesn't come down to me not getting the work from it. Believe me, we're busier than we can even handle right now. We can't physically hire people fast enough to do the work we have right now. Okay, and it's the big reason why we do the blue collar power hours, to help this tradesman shortage for all the contractors and people around the country, as well as give these people a great job opportunity that they were once told they were stupid for going for. But also, it comes down to like, it's not me jealous that I can't get that work. We're busier than we can even handle. It's because we're a great contractor, we do great work, and we communicate well, we set deadlines. I communicate all these same things with our customers as long as they're willing to work with us and not try to be the top boss and the top dog and telling everybody what to do. Like they want to work for themselves and not anybody else. So you got to focus on the jobs that are at hand and leverage the things that you can do. Like, do you think big time real estate investors like Ben Mala goes around and changes the plugs or changes the water in his pools by himself? The guy's worth $250 million. He has a $250 million real estate portfolio. And he did that not by worrying about how to change things out or fix things by himself or painting hotels. He did that because he focused on the larger tasks at hand. So now when you focus on the larger tasks at hand, it allows you to do more volume of projects. And now in turn, that allows you to make more money. That also in turn allows contractors to make more money. And then when in turn you make contractors more money, the prices drop. It's just like when you buy in bulk. And so it helps you, it helps me, it scratches your back, it scratches my back. So stop focusing on the $5 to $10, $100 an hour jobs and focusing on the things that you really should be focusing on to grow what you're really trying to do. You're not here to become a handyman. You're not here to be an electrician. You're not here to be a plumber. You're not here to be a construction worker, a roofer, a drywaller, a painter. You're here to be a real estate investor. So if you were going to take my advice for what it's worth, be a real estate investor. Leave everything else to the people that want to be that. I wanted to be an electrical contractor. I'm an electrical contractor. So guys, I thank you again for tuning in again. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. The link's in the description below. Make sure if you like this, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. If you know somebody that's looking to get into the trades, if you got any value from this, please share it with your friends. So that way, we can help reach more people. I do this completely for free because I want to share some knowledge that I was taught and pay it forward to you guys. And so if you could please help me It's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours as usual. If you're interested in a giveaway, make sure you go to the link in the description below for my Instagram account. We're doing a giveaway of an M18 fuel drill kit, which comes with a hammer drill, an impact, 2 5.0 amp hour batteries, as well as a charger and a handy dandy carrying case. We're doing this because I know what it was like to be starting in the trades or trying to get started in the trades, but being intimidated that you couldn't afford these higher end tools or these bigger product tools. Even if you got a lower end product, it's still expensive. Sometimes you just don't have the money for it. Sometimes you're trying to invest in this to get started, but you invested everything else into the hand tools. So we're really trying to do this to help you guys. So head over to the Instagram, like, comment, tag 2 friends in that comment, and follow us on Instagram. You'll be entered to win, and I hope to see you guys there. I hope to see you guys in the future as we do more videos and more giveaways. And again, my name's Luke C. Marcotte, and we'll catch you next time. Pop a buzz. I don't even know where the you left off. A little bit of starting fluid around the edge. I got a pile of nard and sweat in my underwear right now. God damn it, Chad.